Hello and welcome to Red Mist TV. It's a lunchtime rant time for Manchester United fans because football today has hit an all-time low when it comes to the humanity of football and also the personnel involved in football. As Mino Raiola, this super agent, this super parasite, has launched an unbelievable scathing attack on United legend Paul Scholes in defence of his client Paul Pogba. This is the guy that Sir Alex Ferguson referred to as someone he never wanted to deal with. There were a few agents that he did want to deal with down the years, but this is the guy that he says, I never ever want to deal with Mino Raiola. And we are now, as a football club, completely snookered by the fact that the guy that controls our greatest outfield asset, the guy that's misfiring big time at the minute, Paul Pogba, is now completely at the beck and call and under the control of Mino Raiola. And now, in the space of just 2 weeks, Manchester United, all of their problems off the field and on the field are playing out in public. And this is because of just one defeat, on top of that one poor performance by Leicester, and the whole thing is now being played out in public, and it's become a bit of a shambles. So look guys, Red Mist TV, we're live on YouTube. Join in the debate, comment live, make sure you subscribe to our channel, and also hit the bell icon. That way you'll know the next time one of our lunchtime rants are going out. And we'll post this live on Facebook, and any comments that come in there, we'll cover it in our next show. So Barry might get in touch with us today in the comments section. But look, we'll have a picture of Paul Pogba in the right-hand side of your screen. Any comments that come in, we'll pick up off the screen. But there's a guy that he's worn the captain's armband for 2 games in a row. And, he has been poor against Brighton. He was okay against Leicester. In fact, he was the man of the match. But he seemed to regress against Brighton back to the Paul Pogba that we saw last season. Very inconsistent, will be hit and miss in games. But he's our best outfield player. And the problem that we'll have now is that the problems that United had over the summer, in the summer transfer window, Jose Mourinho didn't get the backing that he wanted. That was clear. He then went on a kind of underhanded but still public criticism of the club. We've come into the season with a cloud of negativity. We scraped past Leicester. Pogba was excellent. But Brighton, the inconsistencies of last season, then come back against Brighton. And all of a sudden, just because an agent wants to take a pop against one of our former players, who's totally entitled to his opinion, this is the sort of thing he's trying to say on Twitter this morning. So Paul Scholes should become sports director and advise Woodward to sell Pogba. Would be sleepless nights to find Pogba a new club. All right, yeah, we understand that your client is the World Cup winning captain for France, but it's just football's hit a new low. It's just this arrogance, these parasites who all they do is take money from the game. And look at the other tweet, which came earlier, which is some people need to talk for fear of being forgotten. As if Paul Scholes is ever going to be forgotten. This is the guy that Zinedine Zidane and Andres Iniesta named his son after Paul Scholes. I don't think Paul Scholes is ever going to be forgotten. If Paul Scholes wouldn't recognise a leader if he was in front of Winston Churchill, all right, so that's cool. So basically what we're saying is, Paul Scholes, who played with the likes of Roy Keane, Steve Bruce, Gary Pallister, Steven Gerrard, Frank Lampard for England, Alan Shearer, so he wouldn't recognise a real leader if it was right in front of him. Sir Alex Ferguson. Okay, so these are the people that now get a platform in football these days, and all they do is take money from the game. They add nothing, but they create this disruption. It's kind of like the recruitment industry, for people who have regular jobs. All they do is go in and just disrupt people, make them unsettled, make them unhappy for their own financial gain. What did Raiola get? Like £10 million for the Pogba deal? Why does he bother even to be in football? It's more money than anyone's ever going to need in their entire life. And I go back to the fact that Ferguson said that he was an agent that he never wanted to deal with. And I think the club now, and Ed Woodward, who is losing control of this club on the field. On the field, matters are very good because the commercial deals keep tumbling in. We've talked before about how Woodward has taken the revenues of Manchester United and grown them over the last 5 or 6 years since he took over from David Gill, and how the mix of that has changed. So now over half of our revenues come from commercial sponsorships, and you have to give the guy credit for doing that. But when it comes to matters on the field, he's losing control. So he sat there at Brighton and was totally out of line. Had a face like a bulldog chewing a wasp, undermining Jose Mourinho, undermining the players, doing a bit like what Daniel Levy used to do for Spurs whenever Martin Jol lost control of things on the pitch, or whenever Juande Ramos performances weren't good. Daniel Levy would sit and the camera would turn to him and he would have this kind of stony-faced look of discontent on him, and that you knew that was signaling the end or the beginning of the end of that manager. And Woodward has got to stop doing this already. He had his opportunity to sort the club out in the summer. If they looked at Jose Mourinho's shopping list and they weren't happy with it and they'd lost confidence in him, they had to remove Mourinho in the summer. Sitting up there in the stand against Brighton, looking like a bulldog, chewing a wasp, only undermines the players and the manager even more. Now we're scrambling to restructure the whole bloody thing. We're looking at a director of football, so that whatever structure might be in place if a manager comes and goes. You have Jose Mourinho saying that he's essentially now just a head coach and would rather be referred to as a head coach, which I think there's great merit in. But all of a sudden, Manchester United, after 2 games of the season, is scrambling to redefine itself and restructure itself. And the time for this for Ed Woodward was to do this in the summer. He's too busy getting a hair transplant, too worried about his own image, too controlled by his own ego, to actually sort the issues of Manchester United on the pitch. And now what's happened is Jose Mourinho was under pressure after the Sunday defeat to Brighton. We know he's handled by a different agent in Jorge Mendes. I don't know if that is where is an influence in what Raiola's had to say this morning. But now this has taken the attention totally off the fact that Jose Mourinho is rightly so under pressure for his job after the 3-2 defeat to Brighton. And Paul Scholes is employed by big broadcasters across the world, BT Sport being the main one, because what he win, like 11 league titles at Manchester United, 2 Champions Leagues, a bunch of FA Cups. This is probably the greatest player that Manchester United has ever produced. You could argue between Giggs or one of the other class of '92. We've obviously bought and played, and he's played with some excellent players down the years. But I mean, to me, if training and the academy at Barcelona, La Masia, a lot of it's based around watching videos of Paul Scholes, and you have Xavi and Iniesta and all these other players saying that he was the greatest player they've ever come across. I think that's a pretty good endorsement. So I think Paul Scholes is entitled to have his opinion on Paul Pogba, and what he's saying about Paul Pogba is nothing that we haven't covered in the 2 years that he's been at Manchester United. He's our best player outfield, but he has been inconsistent. And if we take what Graham Souness has been overly critical of him for, but he has a point, is Pogba, for being a centre midfielder, refuses to stay in the middle of the pitch. He wants to always drift out left, and this has been a massive problem since we signed Alexis Sanchez, that the two of them keep bashing into each other on the left-hand side of the pitch. So what Paul Scholes is saying is completely valid, and the guy is just far too inconsistent. He is certainly not the major problem on the pitch. We know that the problem on the pitch is the back four, and this is now filtering into other areas of the pitch, because whenever you don't have a solid back four, it transcends to the rest of the players across the pitch, and they've got to do more work. They have to Paul Pogba has to have a 9 out of 10 every single game if we have a reasonable expectation of winning matches. He got us through the Leicester match. He's very, very good. We then go to Brighton, and nothing's really different. That was the big criticism of the Leicester performance, that it just smacked too much of last season's performance. And of course, all the chickens came home to roost whenever the performance was there against Brighton from last season, and the defensive chaos that we are being managed into was there for all to see. So Paul Scholes is only giving his point of view from the position that he was probably the best midfielder that Manchester United has ever had, possibly one of the greatest midfielders that the world has ever seen. But it is now that this parasite of football has now created, because he has the power to do so, he has the power to disrupt the football club, because he is the client, he manages one of our best players, and he's a super agent. He can now turn what was already a bit of a problem at Manchester United into a total cluster, and that's the power that these people have. The club has now got to make a stand, and Ed Woodward could do a lot to win back over the fans of Manchester United in terms of how he deals with the club on the field, by saying that going forward, Manchester United, we do not deal with Mino Raiola. and any other super agent who just causes a disruption say that we are not going to deal with these agents anymore. Now, like the obvious argument against that is, look, these parasites are essentially lawyers turned business people turned sports agents. A lot of them have legal backgrounds, and it is up to Paul Pogba to choose whoever he wants to have as his agent. And Mino Raiola has probably made Paul Pogba a very rich man. I would have thought he would have got there anyway with his talent. I think Paul Pogba has made Mino Raiola a very rich man. But if the club says, do you know what, we are interested in signing you as a player, but we don't talk to Mino Raiola, we just don't deal with him as a club, the power would eventually and pretty quickly shift back towards football, and would take it away from these parasites who just drive money out of the game that could be used elsewhere, could be reinvested anywhere else. And people like Mino Raiola would cease to have the influence that they have in football. The damage that he has done, because he has the power to do so, is that he has taken a very bad day at the office for Manchester United, which has highlighted in already a sufficient number of issues that the club is facing on the field and off the field, and he's blown it wide open. So it's now a disaster. We are now a club in crisis. We may actually not be in reality, but the public perception is that we're a club in crisis. Spurs now becomes make or break for Jose Mourinho. Based on everything that's going on, I actually think if we lose at home to Spurs, I think he's gone before the end of the international break. I don't know where the club turns after that, but there's been a clear lack of strategy for Manchester United on the pitch, and this is where we're left now. That we could be left without a manager after 3 games potentially in the Premier League season, and Ed Woodward now has to step up and be the chief executive of Manchester United on the pitch. We know he's a good commercial man. He's done an excellent job. But where he's driving this club down is this egotistical, singular image that he presents that he is Manchester United. Sitting there, in the stands in Brighton with a face like a bulldog chewing a wasp, does nothing for our image, does nothing for the perception, only heaps more pressure on the players and the managers. As Gary Neville correctly said yesterday, at the end of the match, full-time whistle against Brighton, he should have shaken Tony Bloom's hand, or I forget who the chief executive of Brighton is, went in, had a drink with him, and done things behind closed doors. The best thing about David Gill, in terms of how he conducted things at Manchester United, is that you never saw him. Yes, the club was going through a much more successful period than we are going through now, but even if things got difficult, you never saw David Gill trying to be this kind of Daniel Levy type image that really has a lack of class to it. But this is now what Edwards do. He's had his hair transplant. He's obviously very image conscious, and this is how he's portraying himself as a chief executive of Manchester United. So all of a sudden, it's a mess. The club is now, because of the personnel who we're dealing with, they're all individual egos in their own right. The club is now in a total mess. It is, after 5 short years, although the commercial side of the club has gone from strength to strength, on the pitch, the club is virtually unrecognisable from the club that Sir Alex Ferguson and David Gill left. People have got to be held responsible for that. And if Edward Woodward is going to continue on to be the chief executive, and there's going to be no director of football, and Edwin van der Sar or Michael Emenalo or whoever it is it's going to be, if he's going to continue to be the chief executive responsible for affairs on the field as well as off the field, he's got to step up. He's got to make a statement against people like Mino Raiola, who are simply, you forget about Paul Scholes because he's got nothing to do with the club anymore. He's a football pundit. But in terms of how this guy is going to control and disrupt our best outfield player in Paul Pogba, he's got to step up and say that this club is no longer dealing with an agent like Mino Raiola specifically, and any other agent that comes along and tries to disrupt our players or tries to influence the club's business. That is what Ed Woodward's going to do. Guys, you guys let us know what you think. We're going to post this video live on our Facebook channel afterwards. We also have a competition running throughout the month of August, a couple of weeks to go on that, where you can win a replica United shirt or a Liverpool shirt of your choosing, personalised with the name and number that you want. Go across to our Facebook page to find out all the details. But let us know what you think. I mean, is this Do you disagree with me? Is it a storm in a teacup? Is it just one agent who's got a bit of power, a bit of influence on Twitter, and it's not going to really matter at the end of the day? I think it's very significant because I think now this guy is controlling our greatest asset, who's inconsistent on the field, and he's also basically criticizing the club and the way the manager conducts himself. And to me, it's highlighting, it's compounding the issues that we saw against Brighton on Sunday. And really, where the club has got to go to is it's got to make its mind up now on Jose Mourinho. And if maybe the best thing is that we don't beat Spurs and that Jose Mourinho goes, and then the club can restructure, resolve itself, and then kick forward with the season. The final, where this is all coming from, is that Jose Mourinho didn't get the players that he wanted in the transfer window. So where I will agree with Ed Woodward is, to some extent, Jose said, I should just be a head coach now because I have no control or power over the transfer strategy, and I'm not a director of football. That's the way the club's going. And he's quite right about that. That's where the club is trying to get itself to. It's trying to structure itself like a Real Madrid or a European club or even a Manchester City to some extent. But, the club is saying to Jose Mourinho that, we've looked at your shopping list. We're now not actually sure that you're the right guy to be picking and choosing everything to do with our transfer strategy. And the second thing is they're saying is, Jose, you've had over £300 million to spend already. What happened to the concept of a coach making players better or coaching the team? And the two central defenders who were shocking against Brighton, as Barry and I covered yesterday, Jose Mourinho signed them at a combined 65 odd million pounds. I know 30 million has become kind of the run-of-the-mill transfer fee for an up-and-coming player or a decent player. But what happened to the concept of coaching them to make them better? After 2.5 years at Manchester United, we're still playing Ashley Young at fullback. That is Jose Mourinho's responsibility. He's had 2.5 years to sort this out, and he hasn't done it. So maybe the board's saying, you know what, you're not making these players any better. Certainly you're not in the defensive line. We're relying on a goalkeeper to keep the ball out of the back of the net. And all of a sudden we've conceded 4 goals in 2 games. So this issue today with Raiola trying to defend Paul Pogba, but what he's actually doing is he's unsettling Paul Pogba even more because he's repositioning himself as being the man who decides on Paul Pogba's career, not Manchester United. So let me know what you think. You may think it's a giant storm in a teacup and I'm overreacting. I think if you look at most of the other United fan channels that are out there, they're all aghast as well. TalkSport ran a poll today and 20,000 people entered it, and the majority said that Paul Pogba would be better off actually with Jose Mourinho than he would be with Mino Raiola. The biggest decision Paul Pogba could make today is to disassociate himself with Mino Raiola. Let us know what you think, guys. We're going to be covering this story throughout the week. I know we'll be doing lead-ups to 2 important games at the weekend. Manchester United play Monday night against Spurs. Make or break for Jose Mourinho. Any comments that come in, we'll cover them on our next show. But guys, listen, thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. We've got 83 amazing subscribers now. Thank you very much for that. And we're going in the right direction. And let's hope that Manchester United can get themselves back in the right direction.